Today we've got Elliot down from Forma UK to talk about some of their racing boots. Also, we have a little giveaway. So Elliot's brought down 3 boots from their range, 2 from the same sort of category, let's say, well, with different sort of functionalities, as well as, of course, we'll get into the boots giveaway towards the end of the video, so be sure to stick around for the full details on that. So, Elliot, I don't know where you want to start from in terms of which boot you want to go for first, so just choose one and let's roll with it.
Well, I think as we're sort of ending off with a nice crescendo, we start at the bottom and work our way up. So as you said, we've got the 2 Fretchers here. So this is the more entry level from the Forma racing range. We have, if we start here, the Freccia Evo. So this is the newest installment. This replaces the existing Fretcher from the Forma range.
Right.
It's a great boot that offers all of the pros in terms of a performance sport boot with nothing too flashy to ensure that it has a very, very competitive price. So this boot is £184.99p. Made in Romania. It's level 2 across the board in terms of its safety rating. Finished very nicely. You've got replaceable toe sliders. The form of the boot itself is very nice.
I do agree.
And if you're looking for something to get into sport at essentially a lower cost point, this is a really, really good option.
Yeah. If we could talk through some of the actual features you get with a boot, that would be great. So obviously I can see there's a brace there. For flexion extension. There's also the, is it like torsion point?
Hyper rotation.
Hyper rotation on the ankle and stuff like that, which is always good. It's quite slimline in the way it's made, from what it looks like anyway. The cut on the back there, is that stylistic or is that full?
It's predominantly stylistic. It does definitely have use case and perks in a real world scenario, especially depending on whatever leather or whatever you may pair it with. It works across the board.
Yeah. It's nice to have the big chunky shin plate at the front there as well, just in case you do encounter some things on the road that you shouldn't be encountering. You also have this massive Velcro tab on the side here, covering up the zip that runs along the inside of the boot. It's also good so it doesn't scratch up the paintwork on your bike. Some people kind of, in terms of other manufacturers, make it quite puny in comparison, I would say. So hiding the zip is a bit of a challenge, but it is actually quite nice. Having that big chunky Velcro strap across there. In terms of the footbed, how would you describe it? Is it going to be catered for more people with skinny feet, or does it have like a millennial footbed, let's say?
It's a very good question, Tom. So this range and Forma in general sort of sits relatively middle of the road. So the toe box itself is slightly wider, with the shoe itself being very middle of the road. So if you maybe have wide feet or narrow feet, either way, this can still be a very good option for you. Maybe catering more so towards the narrow, but all in all, a very comfortable boot, no matter sort of shape.
Nice. Also like the bottom of the sole, if you wanted to have a look at that, it's quite clean, so you won't be slipping anywhere when you get to the petrol stations, because you do have that occurrence sometimes when you go for full-on track boots or full-on motocross boots where they're pretty much slick, aren't they? So if you have a little bit of fuel on the ground and anything like that, you shouldn't have any issues with this boot or any incidents at the pit stop.
Well, you certainly won't be able to blame the boots.
Yeah, you can't blame the boots.
Can't blame the boots.
It's a skill issue. We'll move on to the next boot here. So this is same but different, isn't it?
Same but different in terms of the ecosystem. These are definitely the closest related. So this is the Freccia Evo Dry. Of course, offers all of the same pros as the Freccia Evo, but has one very key difference, and that's the fact that it's waterproof. So it utilises the Forma DRY TEX membrane throughout the boot to give that element of waterproofing, in line with what they're very well known for in terms of the adventure boots and the off-road space. It's that same membrane. So, if it's going to hold up in those wetter, more treacherous conditions, as a track boot, as a road sport boot, this will do wonders.
So you're a versatile sort of boot that caters to that market of sportier bike riders, even naked bike riders and stuff like that?
100%.
In terms of the membrane inside, does it add any bulk to it that you've noticed at all, or is it just kind of the similar as if it weren't in there in the first place?
A very good question again. I think the biggest thing you'll notice with them more so is airflow.
Okay.
Airflow. So where you have that membrane, of course, it's not going to let the water through. Of course, air is more likely, but of course you will restrict that flow. So if you are looking for something that is more summer oriented, definitely go for the Freccia Evo. If you're looking for something you can use all year round, again, whether it be on the track, winter testing, or you are a regular commuter, or so on and so forth, the Evo Dry is a very good option.
If you haven't touched on it yet, colour options, because I know a lot of people will be out there wanting to know what sort of colour options or graphics you can get on said boots. You said for this one you obviously got the black red, you've got the white black as well.
Absolutely.
Is there any more for any more?
For the Fretcher range, that's it. So the Evo, so the non-dry variant, is available, as we say, in the red, and then the white, all of the red accents are replaced with white instead. So both very, relatively neutral, so they'll go with a lot of bikes. It's especially, if you're trying to do a kit up or matching leathers and so on, it's very easy. And then the dry is just in that black colourway.
You really wouldn't want to have it in any other colour, really, would you, if it's going to be all season? So, moving on then to the piece de résistance.
The creme de la creme.
Creme de la creme.
Oui.
And maybe we should talk about the actual giveaway of the boots before getting into it.
Absolutely. They are the same model anyway. So this is the Forma Phantom Flow. This model in particular has been race worn and signed by Aleix Espargaro in the 2024 MotoGP series.
That's pretty spectacular. So, in order to do the giveaway, you said that for any one of these boots, you get one ticket.
Yep.
As a pair, you buy the boots, you buy these boots, that's one entry, and then if you were to buy the more up-to-date version, which we will get into in a second, the Phantoms, then that's two entries.
Yes, correct.
Per set of boots you buy.
Absolutely.
Correct. Yeah. Right, and how long is that going to be running from?
So we're going to be running the giveaway or the comp until September. So as long as you get your order in before then, if you grab either pair from Infinity before that point, you'll be thrown straight into the draw, and then in September we'll announce a winner who will be able to take this absolute
masterpiece.
Couldn't find a better word than that. Of MotoGP. Memorabilia. No,
that was where I was going to go as well. Yeah, pretty awesome, pretty spectacular. Let's put these away safely, and then let's talk about the Phantom. So if you want to have a little sort of like part of MotoGP for yourself, maybe you would go into a boot like this for yourself as well, because you said there's also other riders now rocking Forma on the track.
Yes, yeah. Forma as a brand is renowned. They've been going for an incredibly long time. All of their boots still made completely within Europe. So every single boot that you'll see in the UK has come from Europe, which is an awesome thing. And all of these riders are utilising either the Phantom or the Phantom Flow, to name a few as of current. Of course, with his recent wins.
Yeah.
Win is Johann Zarco.
Yeah, so absolute legend.
Zarco. Brilliant guy, and riding style this year has been phenomenal. So awesome seeing him in the Phantom. We've also got on World Superbikes, we've got Locatelli,
cool,
Daniel Petrucci,
cool. Some really big names there.
And obviously the list goes on and on and on. You can sort of jump onto the Forma website if you'd like, and you can have a more in-depth look at who's wearing what. But there are some really, really good names going rather quickly in these boots.
Yeah, very quick. So if we move on to the features of the boot, obviously we have the sort of half boot, as we was talking about before, off camera, chuck them on. So the way that it works, instead of it being a full in boot and it being a half in boot, is that you can lace up the bridge of your foot, the top portion of your foot, sorry. Yes, and lace it down that way, cinch it down nice and securely there. Which is a lovely fit. The actual access point into the boot is pretty spectacular, very, very wide. A lot of room for you to try and wriggle yourself into there. They sit quite snug, so they're quite true to size, I would say.
Yes.
Little to no room anywhere, but in a good way, because it feels super comfortable. Compared to the boots that I'm currently wearing at the moment, that shall not be named, these are super, super comfortable. Can we go into like the materials, the sort of like design features and the braces and the tech of the boot, if that's okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, with the heritage of Forma, they've been making boots for a very long time, so they can do it quite well.
Yeah.
And with that comes a really, really nice collection of materials and of high quality. So, of course, the main thing that you'll notice and the main material used is full grain leather. So there is no expense spared in that regard. This variant is the Phantom Flow, so the leather is perforated for that enhanced airflow. So if you're track riding more so than road riding, it's got to be the Flow. It does make a massive difference. Of course, we then utilise some other really nice materials, such as, for example, the titanium.
Titanium sliders. Yeah.
Titanium sliders. So this is something you won't see a lot of from competitors or other boots available on the market.
Because you normally say that other manufacturers mostly gravitate towards magnesium instead of titanium. You say titanium's it would last longer than that of magnesium as a slider, correct? And you also get cool sparks. That's also a key feature. Allegedly. So as you say, a very cool feature. The overall construction of the boot, then of course, as to how these materials are amalgamated, is second to none. You know, the build quality of something like this is fantastic, and for the price point that you get these at, it's almost unbelievable, really. So these are $339.99. So when you can compare that to some of the other options available on the market, highly competitive.
Can't touch it. Can't touch it for that. And you know, for me, if Joe and Zarco can win a MotoGP race in them, I think I've got no excuses.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And so on the topic of the full grain leather, if you can see there on the inside of the boot for added grip, you have this embossment of the leather there to add essentially more grip. So when you're squeezing in your legs into the bike, full tuck behind the screen, you have the maximum amount of feel of your bike, and then obviously sliders and the actual feeling of them on top of the foot. Let's say when I was wearing them, it felt like I could have absolute maximum feel when I'm on the pegs or, you know, maneuvering around the bike, which is a key thing for when you're going fast. I don't go fast. But anyway,
we try.
Yeah, we try. Not compared to the guys that are going around the track. However, if we take a look more so at the heel cup and the footbed of itself, it's quite thin. You can definitely have maximum feel as well in that sense. Is there any other sort of points you want to highlight for the boots?
To be honest, Tom, I think you've covered all the bases. It's a very nice, well-rounded package. Of course, you know, we could go on and name every element of it, but you've covered it very, very well in terms of the finish, the fit, the feel, the quality. It's an absolutely astonishing boot all round. And I think just one other thing we should note is some of the other variants you can get this in. So, for example, as we mentioned, this is the Phantom Flow, so the perforated version. This is only available in this colourway here.
Right, okay.
Whereas if you go for the Phantom, which is the non-perforated version, you will be able to get it either in fluo yellow or fluo red. So again, same as with the Fretcher, some really nice colorways that you can accent well with your existing gear or for anything else you might want to pair it with, even your bike and so on and so forth. So some really good options, all very classy, and will work very well with anything you may have already or are planning on getting.
Right, brilliant. So if that's everything, be sure to check out the giveaway and the details and everything else like that will be in the description, or just play this video back again. And if you want to see other Forma boots that we've had on the channel, just click the card and then you'll see some of the adventure boot range that you do have as well. But that'll be pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think of the Fretchers or the Phantoms down below in the comments. Be sure to subscribe, ride safe, and we'll see you all soon. I'll be taking these.
You can have one, I'll have the other.
I can't fit it in my pocket.